I'm Stacey.
And I'm Lois.
And this is Whose Girl Are You? Today, we're going to be talking to our good friend Debbie about a variety of things, but we have a few things in mind. So, welcome, Debbie.
Hey, thank you. This is kind of a cool thing.
Yeah. Well, and you're cool, so that's why we wanted to have you on.
Yes, exactly. We're so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
The first thing we wanted to ask you is, whose girl are you?
Oh, yeah. I like that question. But I like when people actually answer that question. Because I got to tell you, I listened to all the podcasts you did, and I listened to the first, Whose Girl Are You? And guess what? You girls told us where your ancestors came from. You never said whose girls you are. So I'm going to bust you and make you start.
Oh, no.
She put you right on the spot. Turn that interview right around.
So, whose girl are you, like, the actual answer that people are looking for in church? My mom are Tim and Vicky Kangas. That's whose girl I am.
And my parents are Leo and Doris Niemela.
Okay, so now we know.
Now we know, yeah. And I think you probably know both of our parents, right? Do you?
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, whose girl are you, and are you related to either of us?
I'm sure I am somehow related to all y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the South now, all y'all.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, whenever I was asked that question as a young person or even a little kid, as soon as I said I was Carl Niemekel's daughter, people seemed to know who I am, and now I became important.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. I kind of liked it, but I kind of figured, well, just because I'm his kid doesn't mean I necessarily deserve something.
Mm-hmm.
Like being liked.
Yeah. Being important. Yeah.
Or my mom, she was very outgoing. Her name is Margie, but her given name was Martha. But when some of the people came over from Finland, they kind of taught people to be American.
Right.
So even though her parents came from Finland, somehow it got in her and her sister to change their names. So she decided to be Margie instead of Martha, and her sister decided to be Lempe instead of Marie.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Which, it did make it easier for people to know it, know how to spell it, how to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, yeah, I have all that 100% finished ancestry too.
Yeah. So I have a question. There's another famous Carl and Martha in our heritage. I wonder.
Right.
So she changed her name as a child long before that.
Yeah, when she was a teenager, she did it.
Okay, so it wasn't like, oh, there's already a Carl and Martha, and like.
No, that was before.
Yeah.
When they wanted to be cool, teenagers.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
See, I have the opposite problem, Debbie. So when people would be asking me, whose girl are you? And I would tell my parents' names, they'd just kind of blank stare. And then it was always, oh, are they related to, using the last name, are they related to Randy or so-and-so or whatever? And I say, if they're not from Hancock or Houghton, I'm not related to them. So if they're from Ironwood, if they're from New Hampshire, and so it was actually a difficult question for me because nobody knew. Even my daughter said, if she would say my name and her dad's name, a lot of people would kind of not know. But if she would say her grandpa Olson's name, everybody knew him. So, really quickly, some kids realize which person from the family should I throw the name out, right? Mm-hmm. Whose girl are you? Because you can go, I'm so-and-so's granddaughter.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, it's probably that same feeling that you had when you said your mom and dad's name. Because not everybody has that,
famous parents.
Yeah.
Right. Well, then in the next generation, and even to this day, it's like if I introduce myself, I a lot of times say, well, did you know Fratt?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah.
Because you have a famous husband, too.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm always somebody because of somebody, which is the truth all in all, because I'm somebody because I'm the Lord's girl.
Yes.
And that makes me somebody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody really special.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because that's so true. It's not like a negative thing that because sometimes people can feel like, oh, who am I? I've lost my identity. I'm just so-and-so's mother, so-and-so's wife, so-and-so's daughter, whatever. But when you actually think about it, it's the very things that make us important. It doesn't diminish our identity of who we are. It actually is like multiplying and elevating our identity, that we start off as just this small child of so-and-so, but we become so much more to so many more people as we walk through this life. And as God's child, I think it's just exponential because we have the Holy Spirit. So those seeds that are planted throughout, like as we're walking through, even who knows the reach that they have. Like I know you say Fratt was famous, but Fratt's Deb is famous too in so many circles. Like nobody knows Fratt without Deb, really. Most people, it's Fratt and Deb. It's still hard, even now that Fratt has passed away and been gone for a while already. It's still this morning talking to my husband, I said, I'm really excited. We're going to be interviewing Deb. And he said, which Deb? Because I know multiples. And I said, Fratt's Deb. And you're always going to be Fratt's Deb.
Right.
If you get remarried, I don't know, your poor new husband, I'm going to be like, this is Fratt's Deb.
I still sign like shower cards, Fratt's Deb, or certain things because it does identify who I am.
Yeah. That's cool. So wow, I can't believe you just pointed out that we didn't even answer the actual question.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's good though. So one question that I had thought of when we were thinking about having you on was talking about the empty nester thing, because you had how many kids?
6.
6 kids. And so do any of them live at home anymore?
No.
And how long has it been since the last one moved out?
Oh man.
Like roughly.
Well, the thing is they move out and then they come back for whatever reason. The last one that was here was Savannah, and she had already purchased her own house and lived in it for a couple years. And then after Fratt died, she decided she felt like selling it. And then she moved in with me for a while. And then after, 10 months or so, she bought another one.
Yeah.
And so that's just been like about a year ago. But the beginning of the empty nester thing, I was thinking about that, and I don't feel like I'm real stereotypical. Is that the word?
Yeah.
In that I don't feel like I have a lot to say about the grieving and mourning and loss and all of that when your kid leaves home.
But listen, if you have not experienced that, I think it's even more important to hear about, because all I've heard from people that their kids, when I'm talking about like, you complain once in a while, your kids are teenagers and you're just like, and then someone that's older says, just try to enjoy it because, one day they're going to be gone and you're not going to know what to do. And they act like it's like I'm living in the best days of my life right now. And it's going to be so horrible when they're gone. And so if you have a different perspective on that, I want to hear it.
Oh, cool. Okay. I think the most I felt that real loss or agony or whatever people feel was when my oldest was about 16, and we had just moved to South Carolina from Virginia, and she didn't want to move. And she was really like not getting over it. She didn't like the schools here, the people. She didn't thrive here. And she wanted to move back, and she found this friend that we had gotten to know in Virginia that said she could live with them. And it started moving in that direction to where I thought maybe we have to let her go and move back there. And do you have times in your life when there's a moment that you actually, like, your mind takes a picture, a snapshot?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I can still see that. I was scrubbing a bathroom shower stall, and I just remember that feeling of that real deep agony of my kid leaving me. And it didn't last very long. It was hard, and but it just didn't last very long. But then maybe it was because everything changed and she found some friends and decided she didn't need to move.
Right.
So, of course, that changed the whole situation. But that's, I think, the most painful part of the whole thing. I had a deal where in 2008 or whenever the big crash was, everybody lost their jobs here. I had 3 of the 5 kids I had left move to North Dakota because they had all that oil stuff going on up there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a little sad. Even though they were already out of the house, now to have that much of them migrate up there and just leave us.
Yeah.
That was a little hard, but of course, the thing too is, in this day and age, it's not like it used to be. It used to be if you called somebody long distance, you better talk fast and make it important because it was costly.
Yeah.
And, you didn't want a $300-400 bill when the phone bill came.
Yeah.
Ooh, I remember my parents getting into some fights over that because my mom had a sister in Arizona and we lived in Michigan. They were really tight. And you'd get just those mom eyes if you tried to even interrupt her for a second if she was on the phone with her sister, And it's been a long time since I've heard the words, "I'm on long distance." Some of the younger kids, if they're listening, they have no idea what we're even talking about.
Right.
Exactly.
It was expensive.
And I think just our people in general can get across the country easier now than they could back then.
Yeah.
I don't know, somehow they seem to be able to fly wherever there's a wedding or whatever. It didn't used to be that way.
Air travel is much more affordable as well.
Mm-hmm.
We take for granted that we can just jump on a plane and it might be $500 or something, but it's in a budget to be able to work that in for a wedding. For most people, they're like, if it's an important wedding, I'm going to get there. Most people seem like they, I don't know, make it that big of a priority.
Yeah, you might not be able to take the whole family. Like
no,
when
exactly.
I came out west for the last wedding and stayed with you, we just left the kids at home. I mean, they're old enough.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's actually a thing called empty nest syndrome, which I didn't even know about until I started looking into it this past week. And they have symptoms of empty nest syndrome. It was actually coined in 1914 in some lady's book.
Wow.
So a long time ago. And it's extreme depression, sorrow, like grief. They describe it as grief, like a death. And so what do you think the difference is between the person who has empty nest syndrome and almost can't move past it to those who thrive? What do you think the big difference is between the two groups of people, Deb?
Wow. That's something I should have given more thought before I speak about it.
But your gut reaction.
Yeah, my gut reaction is that maybe they put too much store in maybe living through that child or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
In raising kids, I think you have to be able to think of raising them to be independent of you. And if you don't like that, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I just think if you maybe need them that much, it might be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, are the kids the people in your life that you depend on to entertain you or hang out with you while you're doing the things you like or talk to when you're having a hard time? Like, are they the people you lean on the hardest? And that's a dangerous thing, right? Like that your kids can't be that, or they can be that in some moments. Of course, you can be close to some, but you can't put that pressure on them or yourself because they're going to leave.
Yeah. To fulfill you.
But honestly, can we do that to any one person?
No.
Right? Because even to do it to your husband, well, they up and die sometimes too.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
So if your feet aren't solidly planted on the rock, if Christ is in fact not your center, your life will be shaken to the point of destruction if something happens to the people that you've treated as Jesus. And I'm speaking from experience because I put people in the place of Jesus and then they were taken from me. And that I had to learn the hard lesson in the middle of the storm. And I wish I would have known or been able to see that for what it was before the person was taken, that I could, and maybe that was the only way for me because I'm stubborn and stupid and slow about it. So that maybe that was the only way, but I would encourage anyone, like, don't put people in the place of Jesus that aren't Jesus.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I hear people say, my kids are my life. Are your kids your life?
Yeah, that's a high elevation to put kids on. That's a high plane for my kids to be my life.
Yeah, probably not good for them even.
No. Agreed.
So there's hope. Like, was there a transitional time where the kids were gone? I know some of them came back for periods of time and things like that, but when you finally found yourselves, you and Fratt just sitting there and absolutely no kids around, nobody living at the house, how did that feel?
It felt like, yeehaw! We've arrived.
We're free.
We used to, when we could afford it, we'd take off on a weekend to go up to Hendersonville or somewhere around here. And it was just that feeling of, yay, nobody bugging me, nobody momming me to death and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so after we didn't have the kids here anymore, then it was like, hey, we could just stay here.
We don't even have to go anywhere.
Fun. Let's just be here. And then we really didn't go that much anymore.
Yeah.
We just liked home.
You weren't trying to get away from anything.
No.
Yeah. You know, I guess I feel that way a little bit, even currently in my life, because my boys are 14 and 19 and they really don't want much to do with us, right? Like if we're in one room, like if we come into the room and they're in there, they like kind of get up and walk out and go into a different room. Like that's the stage we're at kind of now. So we don't get interrupted or I don't get mommed to death. They're pretty self-sufficient. And so people like, hey, we should go on this vacation or that vacation. And if it sounds like so much planning and money and whatever, I said, you know, I'm not looking to get away from anything, really.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more than happy to stay right where I am and be in my jammies by 7:00 at night. So I like my house and I like my life and I'm not trying to, I mean, if people vacation, that some people just loved the travel, you know?
Mm-hmm.
By now people might be thinking I don't really like my kids all that much.
No, we know you love your kids and your kid. I think I know all of your kids.
Okay.
Some I know better than others. I at least, you know, if I run into them, I would definitely chit chat them up, but some I definitely know better than others, but I share a birthday with one of your boys.
Oh, which day is that?
With Dallas.
Oh, okay. I'll try to remember
Well,
that
I mean,
this year.
I'm a few years before him, but we have the same date. He's a little younger, but Lois actually has a daughter that has my birthday as well.
Oh, really?
Yes, I do. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that I share a birthday with one of Lois's daughters and one of Deb's sons.
Yeah.
Man.
October 21st is just a popular day.
Yeah.
There's just no reason for any of us to forget your birthday anymore.
No.
I know, right?
Shout out. Like, send the presents just... I'm one of those weirdos that throws my own birthday parties.
Oh,
Actually,
cool.
so Debbie came to my last birthday party. So, she's one of the weirdos that just crashes people's birthday parties, but I love it. Her sister-in-law was coming and she said, oh, Deb's in town. Do you care if she comes? I'm like, that'd be amazing. I love this idea. So I have just this interesting group of friends and I love throwing them all together and they might not even all know each other. And I just love tossing a bunch of randos into a party and seeing what happens. It's always so fun. I almost peed my pants at that last birthday party watching your sister-in-law try to get up from doing a snow angel on my living room carpet.
He was so embarrassed.
Oh, it was so fun. So.
Yeah, that was fun.
So there's a lot to look forward to in empty nesting. It sounds like. Did you pick up any new hobbies or like how did you fill the time? Did you feel like there was a lot of extra time once you weren't having to mom all the time?
I think so. And I mean, I was all the more free to just keep the counter loaded with my crafts, whatever it be, whether it be scrapbooking or sewing or whatever. Just okay. If Fratt was okay with stuff like that, I got huge big counters and I just left them with my mess there for days and days and days.
And nobody touched it.
No.
Yeah, that's awesome. But then do they come back a lot? Do you entertain
They do come back, and we have like every other Sunday. Right after Fratt died, we started every Sunday, but then we changed it to every other for other reasons, other places people needed to be. But I love it. I love it so much. And I just know I'm going to see most of them every other week here.
Yeah.
And I love to see them having fun with each other and teasing each other and just being siblings and whatnot. Grandbabies. It's so fun. Yep, love it.
We have the same thing. We only do ours once a month. My father-in-law passed away, and we started the same thing. It was like, okay, let's do once a month at our house. So, but it's really great for that opportunity to see grandkids who you maybe don't see every day, you know?
Yeah.
We try to do it once a week here, but I only have one kid grown and gone, and she lives in the same town with her one kid. So it's pretty, we have a much smaller family dynamic than either of you do.
The once a month is a larger family thing. We do a weekly family dinner too with mine and Al's family.
Oh, yeah.
So this is like my in-laws and all of their kids and grandkids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of it is you sleep through the night.
Yes.
You have plenty of downtime. You can probably take a nap if you want to. And you have time mentally and physically to prepare the house for people to come over and really be able to relax and enjoy themselves without a lot of pressure, maybe. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So I don't know. I'm personally liking my transitional time as my kids get older. I'm not sad that my kids are growing up. And it sounds too like I don't like my kids or I haven't enjoyed parenting. I've enjoyed and hated all the steps, right?
Yeah, that's about it.
And I like to look to people that are a little bit farther on down the road than I am. And you both are that. Lois is one step ahead of me and Deb's 2 steps ahead of me. And to watch you guys flourish and just enjoy your kids and not put that pressure and that you've done something right when your kids want to come and have dinner at your house once a week or once a month or whatever is the availability that they stop in periodically, that they want to be around you, that your house is a place they want to come to. Not everybody has fostered those relationships when the kids are young. Or maybe they even have tried to foster them, but kids go wayward sometimes and don't. Some people haven't had the joy of having their kids come back. You know, there's some prodigals out there. And I feel so sad for those people. And I'm starting to feel a little bit on what it feels like. My daughter is now talking about moving to South Carolina. And if she does that, like, if I let myself really think about it, I just cry.
Yeah.
So I understand a little bit of mourning, but that's pretty far away, you know? And she's my only girl. I'm like, you're going to leave me here with all these guys. Like, I'm the only girl. So I have that weird dynamic where I feel like she's abandoned me in a way. Yeah. And I know she's not. And everything in me is like, go, it's going to be great. And I think it'll be great for your family. And I would never hold her back from that.
Right.
I up and moved on my parents without giving a thought to their feelings. And they shouldn't. It's not when someone gets married and they leave and they cleave and they start their own family, like that is their family. Yes, we are their family, but I become extended family at that point, almost in the pecking order. So I think that's important to just kind of almost parallel to don't put someone else in a place of Jesus. Also, like, understand that when the kids get married, they have to leave and cleave to that family. And that has to be their primary thing. We're no longer the primary. And although there's parts of that are sad and could make me cry, there's parts of it that are kind of like, whew, it's not my problem anymore. Right? Like, I don't know. Yeah. So it's always a mixed feeling. I think if we're honest, there is mixed feelings about every single stage.
I agree.
And I don't know. I'm finding more and more with anything I'm trying to work through. I think when I was younger, like last week, I still thought that, like, when you're working through something, there's like, you have a starting point and an ending point, and then you have worked through the thing. and then you accomplish it, and then you move on to the next thing.
Yep. Check the box.
I'm realizing more and more it's just not that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Tell me if you have any other insight on it. But the only thing I've figured out at all is that it sounds so cliche, but really it's about living in the moment. Even now, not knowing when or if they're going to be moving very far away, I'm just trying to enjoy every moment, which I think I was kind of doing that in the first place because I've moved a lot and I've had a lot of transition in my life and I've had a lot of death. And so I know that whether something's really good or something's really bad, I learn from what's bad and I try to enjoy from what's good because everything's so fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's just like, it's there and then it's gone. And so it's like you enjoy it as much as you can and you learn from the painful parts. But there is no starting and ending, except for, eternity is the end goal for all of us, right? But
and that even goes on.
and that even, right? Like it's not like you get there and then boom, like that's it. Now it just begins again, but in a more full way. So
right. In a real way, like reality way. What we have here is like vapor, like mist. It's insubstantial. Compared to that, then we'll know as we're known.
There's no marriage in heaven.
I know, that's super weird. We've never talked about this, have we, Stacey?
I don't know.
I don't think we have.
I love throwing that out there.
I know, but you know what that means?
What?
There's no babies either. Like, there's no procreation, right?
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
I think there'll be plenty up there, though.
I mean, the babies that are there, though, are they going to be babies for eternity?
I don't know.
I don't either. But it seems like the man, the woman, the one flesh, the union, that's what produces babies, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe there'll be a better sort of union than a flawed marriage even. That's what I'm saying. I don't know.
Well, Christ in the church, marriage is a picture of Christ in the church. We're the bride of Christ. I don't know.
Even though we don't get that, that's going to be like more awesome than we'll ever be able to figure out.
Right. Because we have a foretaste of it, a glimpse of it in happy marriage here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
But even though we're in a happy marriage, our husbands are still flawed, and we personally are still flawed. So there are
for
conflicts.
Yourself.
I know, right? Conflicts sometimes arise, maybe.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't know. I was sitting next to someone that was on, Deb just got back from Israel.
Yes.
And one of the people that was on the trip with you, I was just actually sitting with and chatting, and she said, oh, you have to go. And I would like to go and maybe I will go, but my joke always is, well, if I don't make it there, I will see the New Jerusalem, which I'm sure is going to be much better than the old one.
Yeah.
Right.
Being a little facetious, there's a little jealousy there. I'm going to admit it. I'm working through it. And what I really need to do is just like really be diligent about working toward my goals of like, okay, get a passport, start looking at tickets, find out about the trip, see if you can afford, like I probably could make it happen, if I really put my mind to it.
Yeah.
I don't even have a passport yet. So that's my first step.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the New Jerusalem will come and we'll all get to be a part of that. It's just going to be pretty cool.
Yes.
All the kids will come home. They'll be, will it be an empty nester situation? Will you just be able to live with people if you want to live with them, but not live with people? So like all the introverts are living alone and all the extroverts are living communally. It could very well be that. I'm going to be living in the communal aspect of it, and I'll go visit Ed once in a while in his little isolated cell that he's created for himself up there. Because I'm sure we'll still be great friends,
Oh, that's so funny.
Even though we won't be married. So that's going to be fun. So besides just not making your kid your everything, is there any other words of advice or anything you could give someone that's facing being an empty nester? Like even in preparation for it. Like my kids are 14 and 19, right? Like the babies. So it's not going to be probably in the next 10 years, I'll probably be fully empty nested, if that's a term.
Yeah.
Like, is there any advice? I don't think I'm going to struggle personally, but some people listening might.
I don't really know what I'd say about that, except, I don't know, I guess probably every parent thinks that they should have done better while they had them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel some of that when I, you know.
Do you think we're responsible for, like, it's kind of that, how much is nature, how much is nurture? You know, how much, I've heard this said, and this is, I say this to myself quite often, not even fully like, is this biblically true or sound? You cannot take credit for your kids' accomplishments, nor can you take blame for their shortcomings.
Oh yeah, I kind of like that.
I like it, and it makes me feel good. Like, is it correct? I don't know. You know, push back on it. I don't know. But there is something to be said about it because they're not us. And I think that's one of the the main things, realizing your kids are not an extension of you. They are a whole separate created being.
Right.
And
Yes.
there's been this like trend that I've seen where people feel like they can program their kids into becoming what they think that those kids should be, like what they feel is best, that they're going to force them down a path of whether it be sports or academics or music or whatever it is that they want to force them down, whatever they envision this created being to, like they can almost like design it. It's getting worse and worse because like now with fertility treatments, you can choose if you're doing implantation stuff, you can choose if you want a boy or a girl. You know, you can choose different stuff. There's all this CRISPR, genetic stuff that you can do. So it's getting like really crazy out there. But now that like they're all grown and gone, you know, how much was just their nature and how much do you think you and Fratt like really affected them becoming who they were, whether it be their shortcomings or their successes? You know, like how responsible are you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Dallas is, you know, a musician, and then his son is an extreme musician. Had he been planted in somebody else's family, would he be that? I don't know. I think there's got to be some influence there.
Yeah, definitely.
But then you go back to like Fratt's brother Dave's the one that taught him. Who taught Dave? He just taught himself. So he didn't have any parent or grandparent that was really doing anything. Jelmer sang in a wedding or two, but I don't think that's the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. And
what
then
about the girls? Have they taken after you in any of your skills or like sewing? You're a very talented seamstress.
Well, I remember Marissa, she didn't really sew with me or anything at home. And then one time I went to her house and here were all these little dresses just beautifully sewed with little matching hair bows and everything. And I'm like, what? You made them? And she's like, yeah. I said, how'd you know how to make them? She used patterns. She just did it. And that was before YouTube, really.
Yeah.
Do you remember me calling you to ask you to teach me how to use the sewing machine?
No, I do remember giving you some chenille fabric for something you were making in your baby's crib.
So,
or was it a curtain? I don't know. Something.
The chenille was, honestly, it was for a dust ruffle for the baby's crib. You're right.
Okay.
But I was living in South Carolina at the time, and I was turning 30. And all of a sudden, I don't know what came over me, and I thought, oh my word, I'm going to be 30 years old, and I don't even know how to use a sewing machine. And I feel like this is a skill I should have acquired by now. So I was like, who do I know? So I called you up and I said, would you teach me? I didn't even have a sewing machine, mind you. I think I borrowed one from somebody. And so you were like, start with something simple. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do some curtains. I did shower curtains with a matching valance, with a matching like tub curtain, like the whole thing for the bathroom. At the time, I thought it was amazing. Now I think about it, I'm like, oh, how gaudy that was. So matchy. But you came over and helped me, and I remember this, when you talk about snapshots of time, I remember you were showing me how to roll a seam, and then you're like, so you roll it like this, and then you iron it, and then you sew it, and you're like, where's your iron? I was like, I don't have an iron. You're like, how do you not have an iron? 30 years old. I don't know. I am a good cook, though. Anyway, I have fond memories. You were so patient and kind with me about it. And now I do simple straight lines, and I can problem solve the sewing machine issues and stuff like that now. So.
With YouTube.
I actually ended up with, Pat's sewing machine that she got the year she was married. She got a new sewing machine, and she's like, do you want this old clunker? Thing is solid steel and probably weighs 30 pounds. But I have loved it. It's been actually really kind of awesome. I feel like it's an heirloom, and I bet that thing's going to be around. She's going to have to probably replace her sewing machine multiple times, and she's going to want her old one back. And I'm not giving it to you, Pat, if you're listening, because I like it.
I love that.
One thing about my girls, though, they all did hair. They all did the classes on hair. Mm-hmm. And I can't hardly do anything with my own hair. I've never been good at hair, and they're all good at hair, so who knows where that came from. Yeah. But going back to the music with Dallas, that Fratt never pushed him to do it. He kind of monkeyed with it a little bit when he was younger, and then he didn't for a few years, and then all of a sudden at about, 12, 13, he picked it up again and took off.
I know they never pushed their kid either to do it. And I remember, I was really close to his wife for a while, like where we talked on the phone almost daily. We were both homeschooling. We were kind of each other's support system a little bit. Like, hey, keep going. You're doing a good job. Mm-hmm. And, I remember her saying, I don't know what I'm going to do with this kid. Every time he's supposed to be doing his schoolwork, he's sneaking off and playing that guitar. And I was like, I don't know, maybe you just like make sure he knows really the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic and just leave it there, because he's probably just going to be a musician anyway. And she was like, yeah. So I was like, don't put so much pressure, because you could see it. You could see the handwriting on the wall many years before that he was going to be a musician, that Dallas's kid would be one. And he is. And I'm sure he knows his basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. But I mean, you don't have to focus on like extended ed when you know they're going to go that route.
Right.
It's a waste.
Well, I think that I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I think that's the purpose of school, is reading, writing, and arithmetic. And everything else is a bonus. Let them, if music is their natural inclination, is that what it means when it says train up a child in the way they should go? And when they're old, they won't depart from it.
Oh, maybe.
Don't try to take them out of that path that's already established for them. And
don't try to force them to be something they weren't created to be.
Yes, exactly. So once you do reading, writing, arithmetic of the basics, if music is their thing, then encourage the music, man.
Yeah.
It's funny about this music with Garrett, who you're talking about. I'm sure people credit, it coming from Dallas and like that. And maybe some of it does, the availability of guitars and, different things that he taught him. But what people don't know is Shyla's twin was a child prodigy on the piano. Mm-hmm. And so was Garrett. I was babysitting him one time, and when Shyla came back, I said, hey, who taught Garrett how to play the piano? And she looked at me like, what? And I said, yeah, he played 2 songs perfectly. And she was like confused. He just taught himself that day.
Oh, my word.
Under 4 years old, almost 4 years old.
Oh, my word.
And it was so good that, granted, there were some mistakes, but at times, but he would poke till he got the right starting note even.
Yeah.
Like, who can hear that at 4 years old?
Yeah, exactly.
And I figured this is just incredible. So I snuck to get my video camera. And you know how you try to sneak up on a kid because they might quit when they see you or whatever. Yeah. So I snuck up the best I could, and he just looked at me, gave me a big cheesy smile, and kept playing, not looking at his hand. He was doing, the one finger thing.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
looking at his hand. He kept playing it.
Yeah.
I still have the video.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so, it's like, I think that just came through the genes even, that prodigy thing from Shiloh's side of the family, not ours.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think he's got it from both sides of the family, because your side definitely, maybe they're not musical prodigies, but they are entertainers.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't care who they, like that, like Fratt's entire family is just a bunch of entertainers. You just run into them and they tell a story. Just any random story about any random thing, and you are fully entertained.
Yeah. A visit to the grocery store. Grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always got put on the entertainment end of everything, not the cooking and da-da-da.
Yeah.
But I think even in myself, I go to a function, a wedding, a shower, a party, whatever it is, and I'll be sitting there thinking, oh, we have dead air here, people.
Yeah.
Don't you know we need to move to the next thing because we have dead air?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of in me to keep things going in the party too.
Yeah, that's me too. That's like the administration type of brain. Like, I love to MC events. I want to have the schedule by all means. Like, I plan and prepare and whatever, and I have a bunch of stuff up my sleeve for, like, if this goes long or if this goes short, how are we going to, like, manage all of that? Because I don't want to have any dead air, and I want everyone to know we're doing this, and then we're doing that, and then we're doing that, now we're doing this, and just, like, guide the whole thing along. I feel more myself when I'm doing that than I think I ever do.
Nice.
If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, more alive.
Yeah, like the bigger the group, the better. Although there was this moment in time where I thought at the last minute I might have to MC Hillfest, which is thousands of people, like thousands and thousands. And I was like, I had a little panic moment there, and then found out that someone else had responded. And so I was off the hook, and I took a breath of relief. And then I thought, I already have prayed that, I've had the opportunity to do emceeing at different events, and I've really enjoyed myself, and that I would like to move into that arena a little bit more even. And then when I saw that text message and I panicked, I was like, the Lord isn't going to give me anything that he isn't already equipped me for. So I need to just keep myself in a position of yes for any of that kind of stuff, because I know that he's put that gift in me to be able to do things like that.
But
I'm not saying I want to MC Hillfest. Like, I'm not sure I'm quite ready for that, but just saying.
But what I was going to say is, what difference is it if it's 100 people or I don't know how big Hillfest is, 5,000 people. I don't know how many people it is. 2,000, 10,000. I don't know.
I can't remember how many they can fit there. I want to say it's like 3,000 or something.
Okay. But what's the difference between that and 100?
The only difference between that is an outside event. An outside event where there's a lot of vendors around and whatever. It's harder to keep people's attention and to kind of navigate through that space when there's a lot of people doing a lot of other things. And
there's people in and out.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be a different vibe.
Okay, so that totally makes sense. I was just like, to me, the size of the crowd didn't make that big a difference.
Right.
I totally get the different dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to take up more space.
Yeah, right.
Which, I mean, let's be real, I don't really have that hard a time taking up space. I have a harder time sitting back and letting other people take up space. My natural inclination is to talk first. And I've been really working hard on not doing that all the time. And just know, if I'm sitting in a circle of people and I'm not talking, just know that the most restraint you've ever seen in a person is happening inside of me.
I love it.
Just sit there and be proud of you.
Yeah, they should be. Like, if I'm quiet in a room, when I walk away, you ought to pat me on the back.
They didn't talk the whole time.
I don't know that that's ever happened. Like, don't get crazy now. I don't think I've ever been silent the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, Fratt used to do that when we'd leave an event or a place or whatever. He goes, I talk too much again. Mm-hmm. Every time.
I do that quite a bit. Oh man, I miss him. I miss him just popping
Yeah.
in and out.
Yeah, imagine none of his talking for 2 years and 3 months.
Yeah.
It's kind
No,
of quiet.
I
Yeah.
bet. Do any of your kids have that in them? That like talking like Fratt?
Dallas definitely can control a room with a microphone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No problem. He's very good at it. But no, I don't think any of them are like him in that way.
Yeah.
Maybe we made too much noise. They never had a chance. I don't know what happened there.
You know, it's just always interesting when we're talking about who are we and who are our kids and that kind of thing, because I'm so curious always about the nurture versus nature. I think my husband and I were going up to Alan Lois's since before we were married, arguing and debating this issue before we even had kids.
Mm-hmm.
It just, because it's just so interesting. Like, I think I'll go back to my previous quote and like, you know, don't take credit for their successes and don't take full responsibility for their shortcomings, because they just are individual people. But it is so fun to have kids and watch to see which ones have what, you know, that that's just born right into them. It's in their genes. Your grandson was like a little prodigy on music, and, you know, my 3-year-old taught himself to read and just started reading one day. And, you know, so that's not from my side. That would be from my husband's side. I remember getting my hair pulled for not trying hard enough to read. I struggled. I struggled to learn everything in life, I've decided, from math to reading to anything. Like, I was really slow going at the start to like really learn and pick up the big concept of something. But once I got it, by all means, I'd run with it. But it was a lot slower to pick it up. I have to remind myself even that now, because we don't ever stop, right? Or we shouldn't.
Right.
As new technologies come out, you know, we need to force our brains to turn those wheels and shake the dust off and know that we can, no matter how old we are, that we can learn. Your dad, Debbie, was a good example of that. He used to come over to my house. It was your dad, right? He'd come over to my house and he hired my husband he's like, I'll pay you. I don't think my husband, he was like, I'm not letting you pay me, but I want to pay you and I want to come over once a week and I want you to tell me. He wanted to know how to put his sermons on to the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he was like old.
He was in his 90s doing this. Well,
Yeah.
when he used to talk to Ed, maybe late 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was amazing.
But he didn't just say, oh, technology's changed too much. He was just like, you know, I'm going to find someone younger who knows how to do this stuff. And I'm going to go there and I'm going to have them show me how. And Ed taught him. It wasn't like, do this for me. It was like, teach me how to do this. And he learned.
That's so funny, because this is starting from him being on the phone with Fratt and he's saying, okay, well, look on your desktop. He goes, there's nothing on my desk.
Yeah, exactly.
This is where we were starting from, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny.
The funnest conversation I have with my dad lately, and he's not even 70 yet, so he's got no excuses, but he seems to think that he has a email on his phone and he has a different email on his laptop. So when I tell him I sent you an email, did you get it? He said, did you send it to my phone or did you send it to my computer? And I'm like, listen. And I have tried to explain this to him so many times. But now I just say, which device do you want to get your email to? And then he'll say my phone. And I'm like, let me see your phone. And I see like which email he has like on there or whatever. Because I don't want to put the other one on that device either, because then that might confuse him as well if he's not really.
Because then you have 2 of them on there.
Right. And I do. And I love having multiples and I can switch back and forth between the 2. But I don't know. I hope that I can keep learning. And I know it's going to be a struggle for me. And maybe my dad's the same way. It's hard for us to learn at first. And so it can be really frustrating. Once we get it, we get it. But is that the definition of slow? I wasn't in slow classes in school, but.
Right.
I don't feel think, like go ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think that's slow. Every person is such an individual, and there's different strengths and weaknesses, you know, to be able to fill dead air and entertain is a skill. Does your dad have that?
I don't know. He's speaking at the next men's breakfast next month, I heard. So
okay,
I don't know.
So maybe that comes naturally, or your mom. I mean, either one.
Oh, my mom could talk, but she didn't ever demand a room. Like,
okay. I'm just curious because everybody's strengths and weaknesses are so different. And so you're saying, like, is that the definition of slow? Well, you're super fast.
In some arenas, yeah.
Yes, in some arenas. Technology
is not.
It's not, but you have an interest there. Maybe because of who you married that draws you into being able to explain to your dad.
And also to be able to communicate with my husband.
Right. Exactly. Because that's a good thing.
Hey, I'm curious. We were just in a room the other day and nobody had known about it. I know you know about it, Lois, I'm pretty sure. But Deb, have you ever heard of Chat GPT?
No.
See, so many people have not heard of this. It's so interesting. Lois, you do know about it, right?
Yes. Yeah, we talked about it before.
Okay, yeah, we talked about it before. You can go online. It's an open AI. It's not true AI, but it's an open source program. You can just Google Chat GPT and go in it and tell it, hey, write a song about whatever. And it will write like chorus, stanza, bridge, blah, blah, blah. Just write in like 30 seconds. Or you can tell it to write an email to so-and-so telling them how much I appreciate them for such and such. And it will just write it out. And then you just insert like your name and whatever into it. Like it's crazy technology. People are using it to make, they're using it to build out everything from resumes and cover letters to a whole business plan. I mean, it's crazy what they're doing with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Emails at work.
Yeah.
Essays at school.
Oh yeah. Like it's becoming a crazy thing. I just was thinking about it. I was just wondering, as we do, jumping from subject to subject because one thing sparks another thing in my little brain. Mm-hmm. But I was wondering if any of your musicians have write a song about whatever the storyline is, whatever the tagline is, into ChatGPT and seen when it spits out.
I don't think they know about it.
No, it won't come up with your melodies and stuff like that. So you still have to have musicality, right? To be able to put those words to some sort of tune or whatever, beat, whatever words you use in music. I don't know anything about music. Like I honestly, people use all these music terms around me. One of my best friends is a musician who's classically trained and all of that. And they use all sorts of words. So now I just like randomly throw them into sentences and pretend I know what I'm talking about. And sometimes I like skate through it and they're like, yeah, makes sense. Other times they're like, what are you even saying? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to be part of this conversation.
Right. That's funny.
Anyway, I try it out. It's kind of interesting. People either love it or hate it. I feel it's very polarizing.
So I signed up for it, or I tried to, and it wouldn't let me. It said they're not taking new people right now.
You missed the boat.
I don't know.
Well,
maybe
if you ever want to try it,
they said they'll get a hold of me when it's available or something.
Oh, sometimes there's certain times of the day and certain days of the week, sometimes where it's so bogged down because so many people are using it. Listen, It went from 0 users to 1 million users in 5 days.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Nothing has ever in the history gone, like even Facebook, it took Facebook like a year to reach 1 million users. 5 days.
So how it works is, Deb, it draws from the internet. It uses the internet as its database. So when you say, write me a song about a tragic love or something like that, it searches and says, this is what tragic love songs sound like. And then it writes one.
Wow.
So it uses the resource of the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's getting so bogged down that sometimes you go to use it and it just says like unavailable, like it's too many people on the server, it's going to crash it. So
have you tried it?
Oh, I use it. I use it. Oh yeah, like all right, because you know how I'm just so I'm really direct and to the point, and so sometimes that can come across as harsh or rude,
right?
Which is not my intention. So I'll write an email, blah, 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 and then I'll copy and paste my email right into ChatGPT, and I'll say, make this email sound friendlier.
Wow.
And then it edits it for me and like adds in like all of the fluff and niceties that like I don't come naturally to me. And then I like just proof it and then I send it.
Wow.
You can put like you could write a letter or whatever and stick it in there and say, make this sound more confident.
Cool.
It's crazy. Yeah. So anyone who really loves writing hates this technology.
Oh. Uh-huh.
Because it can do it better than they can, or what?
That's what they're afraid of.
It's working them out of a job.
Yep. Did you hear about ChatGPT needed to get through one of those, those CAPTCHAs where you have to like select all of the squares that have bicycles or whatever, and then you click like, I'm not a robot?
Yeah.
Well, GPT wanted to get through one of those and couldn't get through the CAPTCHA because it is a robot. It went on a different website and hired a human to do the CAPTCHA and told the human that it was blind. So it needed someone to do the CAPTCHA, and jokingly the person wrote back and said, "You're not a robot, are you?" And they were like, "Actually, this is ChatGPT." So ChatGPT was hiring a human to get through the robot safeguard.
Yeah.
Wow.
What?
Like, this is where we're at.
That's crazy.
And it is going to be so funny in 5 years to listen back to this podcast about how much we didn't understand what was happening at the time. I don't know if you've ever gone back and listened to people like on the news or something talking about the internet and how the World Wide Web was going to become a thing and people were going to start having computers in their houses like back before we all did. And how stupid they sound because they didn't fully even understand what they were talking about, because nobody did. I mean, it's not that they were stupid. They had just a limited range of experience because we all did. And Ed I remember him saying he was trying to convince people in the 80s about the World Wide Web and how important it was going to be and how it was going to change the world and everyone was going to use it and all these things. And they all thought he was crazy. Just some weirdo nerd in his bedroom on I don't know. Yeah. They didn't even make monitors then. He had to buy a TV and rig it up to a computer that he built from Radio Shack. They didn't sell them yet. Yeah. So he was, building, he was kind of in this before it was a thing. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, some are musically talented. Some have their brains work a different way, and they can teach them how to read at 3 years old because their dad was building computers before there were really computers.
But that's where I'm saying, I think each person's strengths and weaknesses give them advantages in some areas and make them work harder in other areas.
Sure.
And that's just the human nature.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, creative musicians. Tell me if this is true. I feel like so many of the musicians I know, they cannot show up for something on time to save their life. What's up with that? Is that just a musician thing?
I don't know.
Have you seen, does this play true to like musicians?
I think Fratt was more on time for a music gig than he was for anything else.
Okay.
So I'm going to say no.
Okay. Maybe just some of the ones I know. I thought maybe like the creative people had a hard time keeping a schedule or something.
Yeah, I mean, he had to get there early and set up equipment and all that, so he allowed time for all that. So I'm going to say he was pretty good with that.
Yeah.
But what you said was music made him show up on time. He was early for music, but if he was showing up at his brother's house and he said, I'll be there at 5, was he there at 5?
If you know his brother and all their family, his brothers and all his family, he'd said, let's go an hour late because no one will be there yet.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went out for lunch with his sister the other day and I called her and said, you want to meet us there? And she said, yeah. And I said, we're leaving now. She said, yeah, okay. And I said, hey, did you hear me? We're leaving now. And she said, yep. And we were leaving from one place and I don't know where she was. She said, yeah, me either. So we got there and we're there for a few minutes and I texted her and said, hurry up. That's all I said, hurry up. She's like, I'm coming. And so she came squealing in on 2 wheels. But the last time that we went out for lunch with her, like last summer, and she said, yeah, we'll meet you. We were all done eating by the time she showed up. And even when she showed up, she like ran into other people that she knew. And so she was chatting on her way to the table, she was chatting so much. We were like basically ready to leave by the time she sat down, and we love her. So we sat there and like chatted while she like finished her lunch as well. But it's just that's how the family is.
Yeah.
But you know what? They have such a presence about them though, as well, that some way they can get away with it because they're such big loving personalities that you just like almost can't get mad at them. Honestly, they're such a joy to be around, really, that you're willing, even people like me that are very timely, I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit of like, let go of that a little bit because I really enjoy their company.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad I'm stuck with them still.
Yeah. So have you've maintained relationships since Fratt passed? Like nothing has changed?
Oh, yeah.
That?
Oh, yeah. Well, and then of course now with Philly and Gladys, they're widows as well since then. So that just automatically creates a deep connection.
Yeah.
Just because you understand each other and whatever. But Ruthie, of course, you know, she's 12 years in now. So, and she, of course, also knows what it's all about. But, yep, I love all of them.
Yeah.
Every last one.
I do too. I've had the pleasure of knowing most of them too, which is strange, like, to think about. I'm not related, but that family has a way of making you feel like you're part of it though, even if you're not biologically. It's like, there's so many of them anyway. They're like, what's a couple more? I think that's kind of the mentality. So I really appreciate that about your family. So I know we were talking about empty nesting, but also, being a widow, what's changed the most drastically since, Fratt's been gone? Like maybe something for the better, something for the worse.
Well, what I missed the most, and he even said this kind of before when he was still here, but the just being there.
Yeah.
He had said a couple times, I'd be out here doing a craft in the kitchen and he'd be in his man cave right here with the door open. So you'd hear him clicking a little and he'd hear me doing my thing out here, but we wouldn't really be that interactive. But he might come out for a coffee and he'd say, you know, even though we're not really talking to each other and, you know, whatnot, he said, I just like knowing you're there. I just like you being here. And it's just, I don't know. I just miss him just being here. Just being. Yeah. I don't know. It's just a void of that. And, yeah.
I know even saying this probably is still going to choke you up but it's so good. When you have to say things that make you emotional, there's healing in that.
Yeah. And I really don't care, but just sometimes I can't talk and then if I cry, it starts snotting up and then maybe I won't sound right, but that's okay. Don't really care.
Yeah.
So what was the other thing that you really miss?
I just miss being somebody's favorite person.
Yeah. I feel like that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's something we don't necessarily consider until we're in that position.
Yeah.
I take that for granted.
Well, there's all those little things you share with each other that aren't interesting enough for anybody else to bother to listen to.
Yeah.
That when you're just sitting there chilling and stuff, you just ramble them out, you know. It's just kind of nice to do that. It might even be something physical that you're feeling that you wonder what the heck that is or whatever. Any old thing.
Yeah.
You got a new rose on your bush that you planted 3 years ago and you never got any flowers and now you got 3 white roses. You know, you tell people that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't call you and tell you about it, but if he was sitting there, I'd be excited to tell him about it. Hey, look at this.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he was a good one, and I am so grateful. I got so many good memories, and I'm grateful for that.
How many years did you guys have together?
Almost 45. I saw some people at Lowe's. We were in this big long line yesterday. I was buying some stuff, and so were they. And there was a bench there where one guy found to sit while his wife stood in line. And so I said hi to him, and he mentioned that I found a good place to sit. And she'll let me know when she gets up there, and there's another couple right behind me, 2 white-headed people. I said, hey, how long have you been married? He said, 55 years. I said, nice. And then I asked the other people, 55 years.
Wow.
I said, well, that's awesome. You guys hug each other a little extra today because I had mine for 45 and he's gone. He died. And then I turned my head so fast away from the people. Did my crying not looking at him.
Oh, man.
But anyway, for anyone listening, extra hugs today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a whole different thing. You have empty nest, and that's one thing. But then when your nest is really empty and your spouse also is gone.
No, that's a different story.
That's a different empty nest, right?
Yeah.
Because coming home and not having another presence there, like you said, even if they're in another room, you can feel if someone's there or not. Like there's like this, I don't know, we're joined like that.
And somebody to know if you ever got home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But I do well by myself here. I kind of like it alone right now. I think alone gives you lots of time to think and ponder and whatever. It's good.
Yeah.
We did a lot together, but we did a lot separate too. We did a lot of traveling separate because he'd go to the Philippines, Vietnam, Africa, all these places. And it wasn't really the kind of place that I'd go along with. I went with him on one to Guatemala. But then I went with my brother Bruce twice to Guatemala for 2 weeks each time for Spanish school. So that wasn't something he really wanted to do. So it's not like traveling alone or with somebody else is real weird now.
Yeah.
You know? He wasn't that, he was gifted in the things that my favorite things, you know, making me feel like a number one priority, and other than the Lord, of course. But he wasn't that guy that's running around the house fixing things that are broken. And, you know, hey, if I brought groceries, he'd run out there and carry them in. But he just wasn't that guy that's, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. I'm married to one of those guys.
So I don't feel like, you know, the big absence of him running around fixing things around here.
Yeah, no, I've joked with my husband. We talk a lot of theoreticals, right? Theoretically, if this happened, what do you think you would do? If that happened, what do you think we'd done this since the first year we were married. I don't know. Maybe we're strange. Maybe we're normal. I don't know if people talk about this, but it'd be like, would you, in the early years, it was more like, if I got in a car accident and like I lost the lower half of my body and we could never have intimacy again, like, would you stay married to me forever still? You know, like, like that's never going to happen probably, but like, let's talk about it. You know, but now it's like, well, would you, if I died, like, would you get remarried? Years ago, we even talked about that. And years ago, I was like, absolutely, like, I would get remarried. I wouldn't want to be alone, whatever. And now we've been married 25 years and I'm in my late 40s. And recently we talked about it. And I was like, I don't know. I think no. And not because my marriage hasn't been a blessing, but because even marriages that are a blessing, there's still, anyone that's been in it for a while, you know, there's still a lot of work involved as well. A lot of compromise involved as well. A lot of giving of yourself and denying yourself. And I mean, all things that are really good in developing your own character over time, but work nonetheless.
Yeah.
If my husband died, I like the most recent theoretical conversation about, well, what would you do with your life? And I said, I'd probably see if I could, go be like, a missionary somewhere, like long term. Like that would be like what my next chapter would ideally look like.
Yeah.
If all my husband and kids all left me and I found myself alone, I think that's maybe what I'd do. But I don't know. The Lord, you know, I plan and the Lord decides. And I'm just looking at today. But it's fun to talk about if this happened or that happened. But we don't ever know what we're really going to do.
Right.
But do you think it's helped? I'm sure it's helped that, like, yeah, you did stuff together, but you did stuff independent as well. So doing stuff independent doesn't feel so strange.
Yeah, that's the point that I was trying to make. So yeah, that I think that's a good thing that helps me now. Mm-hmm.
I'm set for it then when it happens because I do almost everything independently. Oh, not everything, but like we definitely have our own lives, you know?
Yeah.
Separate interests that we're not interested in, you know, like I don't want to go play computer games.
Right.
He doesn't want to go to every social event. So he
Right.
comes to the ones that are important to me.
Right.
But the ones that aren't important, I'm happy to let him stay home and do what he would like to do. Yeah, I think that's good. Like the people that they do every single thing together all the time and they're glued to each other's hips. I think those are a little bit more difficult when the separation happens.
I agree. And I have a very close friend in that situation now. They worked together. They sang together. They did everything together. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard.
It feels like probably creating an entire new life from scratch.
Pretty tough.
It's, yeah. My mom and dad actually were like that as well. Mm-hmm. And I've watched him try to rebuild his life it's really hard for them to imagine going on without that other person. Cause although like you felt like Fratt was your other half and he was your most special person and you were his most special person, you still had some independent lives outside of one another.
Yeah.
But when you have none of that, it gets really difficult. How do you move through life when your other half is gone and they were right by your side all the time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I will say I've watched my dad rebuild his life and it's possible and he's doing well but I think it's been more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out how to navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
But with God, you know, He'll guide your path one day at a time. And eventually my dad's been living with us for a year now. And I just recently asked him, he said, wow, I've been here a year. And I said, yeah, that's crazy. It seems like you've almost been like part of this household forever. Like it's so natural and normal for you to be here. And I love it. But I said, could you have imagined a year ago that you would have the number of friends and the, you know, activities and the different things? Could you have imagined that your life was going to turn out this way a year ago? And he said, no, wow. I could have never anticipated. Because like he's on a senior golfing league and he's part of the men's breakfast and speaking at it and he's volunteering at the church and he's made friends and he's part of a small group and he's got friends he walks with. I mean, he's got a very active, busy life.
That's so
Not
good.
to mention he helps with, you know, watching his great grandson and running my kids to the dentist and different things as well. He's very helpful around my house too, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a different life, but a good one.
Yeah, exactly. It's different, but it's good. I think it's hard to switch gears, right? Like I think when you're with someone a long time, you kind of plan or you anticipate or you think about how these next years are going to be. And then when all of a sudden those years aren't there, you're like, now what? You know?
Yeah, it's a change.
Yeah. But I'm so glad to hear that empty nesting is like, yeehaw.
So I need to ask you, because when we started, Debbie, you said all y'all, because you're in the South.
Oh, yeah.
So tell me the difference between y'all and all y'all and like, because I think I know.
Y'all, okay. Y'all is one person.
Okay.
All y'all is all of you.
Okay. See, that's, who knew? If you weren't from the South, you wouldn't know that. Because
I thought y'all had to be at least two people. And all y'all is more than two people.
No, y'all can just be one person. Because like a waitress might come and say, would you like more coffee? And then she might say, how about y'all? And point at one other person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I was wondering. I had a sneaking hunch.
Okay.
So it has been really, really wonderful to chat with you and get your perspective. I think the biggest thing about empty nesting is that, you know, you have children, they will grow up. Your nest is going to be empty. So you need to prepare for that, like ahead of time, you know, make a plan. Don't just have your head buried in the sand and think you're going to not have to deal with it. So make a plan.
Can you make a plan? Like did you make a plan though? Like really? Like I gotta push back on that for a second. Like, is there a way to really plan or just more be aware? Is that
be
what you
aware.
mean? Like,
be aware, I guess. be aware
that it's going to happen
Yes.
and that you're going to have to accept it.
But I think even make a plan in that you can have hobbies, you can have interests, you can have friends, and your children and your husband, I'll put that in there, don't need to be your entire existence.
Uh-huh.
Like you said, like we started way back in the beginning, don't make them Jesus. Don't put them in the place of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess my way of planning is like, I allow myself to dream a little bit about, well, instead of being like, oh wow, they're going to leave me, instead to be.
Oh, exactly. Be proactive.
Instead to be dreaming about, hey, when I don't have these obligations, what will that free me up to be able to do that I maybe have like lost touch with because I've been parenting so long.
Right. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So it's been really good to have you join us.
Well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me. You girls are fun to talk to, and I think it's pretty cool what you're doing. And, I appreciate it.
You need to come back to New Hampshire in October for my birthday party again.
Right.
You're not going to forget when it is.
You
now,
promised me some pretty leaves. I might come.
I love that scarf you got me too. I wore it all winter.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's a beautiful scarf. Yeah. Yeah. No. So, Deb, do you have any parting words, thoughts, anything?
Mm.
Or are you just like, peace out?
I love you. That's all.
That's all. That's all, folks. Until next week. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at whosegirlareyou@gmail.com. That's WHOSE, whosegirlareyou@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Special thanks to Deb for joining us this morning. Hope you have a great week, Deb. We'll be in touch, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Great.
All right, awesome. Have a good week, girls.
Okay.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.